Hi, I'm Dr. Stefanie Christian. Welcome back to Tuesdays with Timeless. In the month of December, I've been talking about neuromodulators, and the ones I use in my practice are Botox and Xeomin. I've talked about using them in the upper face. I've talked about using them around the eyes, and today I'm going to talk about using them in the lower face, around the mouth, and benefiting the jawline. So why would we do this? Well, first, there are things that happen around the mouth that we don't like. And although the eyes are the focus of the face, there are a lot of people whose main concern is the aging that they see around the mouth. And that might be radial lines coming in toward the lips. And more than 50% of people who have those lines were never smokers. So although we call them smokers' lines, they aren't necessarily from smoking. They are often from repetitive motions. People who purse their lips when they're concentrating, or people who move their mouth from side to side when they're concentrating. So it's that repetitive motion that leads to the crease formation, and that's why neuromodulators are beneficial. The next thing that we sometimes see is orange peel skin on the chin. This is from an overactive mentalis. The mentalis muscle is right here. And in people in whom that's overactive, the skin can look very rough and like the peel of an orange. And another excellent place to have a neuromodulator actually change the appearance of something and return it to the smoothness that it had before. Now, when I was talking about the upper face, I talked about the posture of the face and using neuromodulators to balance elevators and depressors. Well, we have the same thing going on in the lower face. For people who have overactive elevators of the upper lips, either here or over here, they'll end up with a gummy smile. Ideally, the lip should be at the top of the teeth when we smile. But if those muscles that are pulling up the lip are too strong compared to the muscles that are pulling down, people will end up with a gummy smile, and you can see a lot of gum in that smile. And that's something that tends to bother people a lot throughout, their awareness years, and is another thing that's pretty easy to fix with neuromodulators. Sometimes, though, when we're talking about the posture of the face, we're talking about neuromodulators used along with other things like fillers. The last thing I wanted to talk about why we would use neuromodulators in the lower face are the platysma muscles. These are fan-like muscles that come up and insert on the jawbone. But some of us are able to tighten them by saying E and holding it, and we'll get them sticking out here and on the side. And for people who think that that makes them look like Aquaman, we can actually inject all the way down the length of those platysmal muscles. But what I find particularly important about the platysmal muscles is that they open up, when they make those bands, they open up in sort of a delta, a fan-like distribution up here, and they pull down the jowls. And so that's a really nice place to use neuromodulators. So how do we do these things? Well, like I said, sometimes you have to use neuromodulators in conjunction with other things. Like if you have lines coming into the lips, a CO2 resurfacing is an excellent way of treating those lines. But if you continue to purse, those creases are going to come back. We can also put filler into those lines. But what we find are that in people who have an unconscious expression that they're doing that's perpetuating or worsening those creases, it really benefits to put in just a tiny bit of neuromodulator in very specific places and along the edge of the lip, the outer edge of the lip. And what that does is it is a reminder not to purse. That if pursing is causing those creases, then something that decreases the pursing is going to help prevent them from getting worse. Interestingly, something that's gotten to be very popular is the lip flip. And the lip flip is that same injection here, and it causes the lips to evert so they can look like they had a little bit of filler put into them. So usually a pretty mild change. And next, the mentalis. The mentalis muscles, you can see it best if you put out your bottom lip, like you're pouting. And if the skin there gets very rough, like the skin of an orange, then that's the peau d'orange or orange peel skin, and that's from an overactive mentalis muscle. And we simply inject into the mentalis muscle to soften that. Some people will actually have it get so bad that it looks like they have a golf ball on their chin, and those are great candidates for the injection of neuromodulator into the mentalis muscle. The DAOs are something else. These are called the depressor, pull down, anguli, angle of the oris, of the mouth. So these muscles here pull down the angle of the mouth. They also have elevators. The zygomaticus muscle is the elevator, but as we lose our cheeks, the zygomaticus gets a little weaker and the DAO can get stronger. And so people's standing sort of static appearance is curled down mouth corners, or instead of having a dash here, they have a little comma. So what we can do is we can do a number of things. We can inject filler at the corner of the mouth, which buttresses the corner because we've lost some volume there. We can put filler right at the corner of the cheek so that the zygomaticus muscle has further to go and the pulley system works a little better. And then for some people, it's as easy as simply putting neuromodulator into this muscle. And it's got to be put very carefully because you don't want to interfere with some of the other muscles that move the lower lip and end up with them dropping. So it's got to be done very carefully. And then the last place that I mentioned was the platysmal bands. And these are the bands that cause these things that stick out. And as I had a patient say, she said, it makes me look like Aquaman. Well, you know, I've got that sort of classic Aquaman neck. And I haven't injected it recently so that I could show you what I'm talking about with this. So when this comes in, it fans out right up here, right to that place where the jowls are. These are depressors, and the DAOs are depressors. And those muscles, the DAO muscles, and the fibers from the platysmal bands sort of interdigitate right here along the jawbone. So what I like to do with platysmal bands is to inject mostly at the top, at that delta where that fanning happens, and along the jawline, right down onto the bone, because you catch fibers of the DAO and you catch fibers of the platysmal band, and then going into this, just at the top where that opening up is, where that funneling is. And what you find from this is that the corner of the mouth is elevated, the DAOs are elevated, and the jawline gets much nicer, much more smooth. So I hope this answers some questions about what we can do with neuromodulators, i.e. Botox or Xeomin, in the lower face. I do want to stress that these are advanced injections. These are not injections that should be done by a beginner. It's really important to understand the anatomy that's going on there and to understand all of the other things that you can do for the skin that work in conjunction with the neuromodulators. The goal is to have you look as rested and refreshed and as naturally beautiful as you are. So if there are any questions, please comment below. Have a wonderful week and a very happy, peaceful, healthy holiday. I'll see you next week.